Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of information and distill it into something truly insightful for you. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's been grabbing headlines and maybe even stirring up a bit of anxiety for you. The relationship between artificial intelligence and our own human brains. You've probably seen the sensational stories about AI and, shrinking brains. Our mission for this deep dive is to cut through that alarmism and get to what's really happening.
Exactly. And we're drawing on some incredibly insightful sources today, particularly the work of Erickson, Katz, and analyses from rethinking AI beyond fear and towards cognitive partnerships. Our goal is to understand what actually occurs when people and AI collaborate, and perhaps even more critically, what questions we should be asking, and why some of the popular narratives might be a bit misleading.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Because those headlines certainly got everyone talking and often worried. That whole shrinking brains idea seemed to just explode from that one preliminary MIT study, right? The one suggesting using ChatGPT could be, neurologically damaging. It definitely ignited a lot of the fear.
Yeah, and what's truly critical to understand here is that our sources pinpoint a fundamental scientific missing piece in that study everyone talked about. It was a small preliminary fMRI study, which, fundamentally lacks validation through large-scale replication.
Okay. So not widely tested then?
Not at all. So this shrinking brains concept, as it was presented, is really built on quite shaky ground. You could say it's more of a hypothesis than a proven fact. And zooming out a bit, any observed cognitive dips, they aren't really pointing to AI as some kind of brain-eating monster. It seems much more likely it's about our own shortcuts.
Shortcuts.
Yeah, it's less about the tech inherently damaging us and more about our choices, opting to let AI do the heavy mental lifting instead of grappling with the challenge ourselves.
Letting AI do the heavy lifting. Can you give us a clearer picture of what that actually looks like in practice? Because that feels like a really pivotal distinction.
It absolutely is pivotal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine you're tasked with understanding some complex research paper. Instead of really reading it, synthesizing it yourself, you just ask AI to whip up a summary.
Okay.
Or maybe you're wrestling with a tough problem, and instead of grappling with the question to, develop your own answer, you ask AI to generate one for you.
The easy way out.
Exactly. That's the bypass.
Right.
What the study might have picked up on is a decrease in effort in certain kinds of mental tasks, not actual damage to the brain structure.
I see.
So the narrative flips, doesn't it? From AI makes us dumb to are we choosing less cognitive engagement when we use it? And that puts the focus right back on us, the users, not the tool.
That is a profound distinction. Wow. It completely reframes how we even think about the danger. But, okay, here's where our sources take an even more intriguing and maybe slightly unsettling turn. If the fear itself is overblown or misplaced, then you have to ask that critical question. Who profits when fear replaces nuance?
This brings us to a fascinating, if maybe uncomfortable point. Our sources strongly imply that certain groups or agendas or entities actually benefit from fostering this atmosphere of alarmism and fear-mongering around AI.
And that implies this isn't just random noise, is it? It sounds like you're saying this fear-mongering could actually be deliberate, maybe pushing us towards something like reactionary policies or even tech abstinence. Is that the idea?
It certainly suggests there might be a deeper game being played. The underlying message is that such actions may serve other agendas. They can have a little ulterior motives, diverting attention from, say, constructive dialogue and ethical integration of AI. Think about it. Industries or institutions whose traditional models might be disrupted by AI. Fear-mongering could slow down an option, protect their existing market share, maybe even shape regulations in their favor.
Right. Control the narrative.
Exactly. It's about who stands to gain control over AI's future by controlling the present conversation.
And the stakes are incredibly high there, because if we're constantly pushed towards tech abstinence, just outright avoidance, what does that do for innovation, for our collective ability to learn how to navigate this rapidly evolving world? It feels like we'd be left behind.
Absolutely. And this forces us to ask an even deeper question, really, about what thinking even means now. Our sources highlight that who gets to define what thinking should look like in an AI-mediated world is a critical and contested question.
Contested how?
Well, these alarmist narratives often implicitly devalue certain cognitive patterns. They push a singular, maybe traditional model of thinking, like rote memorization or maybe the individual ownership of every single phrase generated.
That's a fascinating insight. Are we, in a way, kind of stuck trying to force this powerful new square peg into our old familiar round cognitive holes? Is that what's happening?
It's a perfect analogy, actually, yeah. The sources introduce this really groundbreaking idea of cognitive pluralism.
Cognitive pluralism, okay.
Yeah, this concept suggests that AI doesn't just have to replicate traditional thinking like memorization or, straightforward analysis. If we use it thoughtfully, it could actually open up entirely different ways of thinking. Imagine leveraging AI not just to summarize, but maybe to cross-reference disparate fields, generating completely novel hypotheses we'd never connect on our own.
Wow, okay.
Or maybe to simulate complex scenarios to rapidly test our assumptions.
Yeah.
It's about expanding our cognitive reach into areas previously inaccessible, not just, reinforcing what we already do.
Cognitive pluralism, that feels quite radical, actually. It challenges a lot of ingrained assumptions about what intelligence even means. And that leads right into a really quite personal concern Erickson Katz shared. He said, my concern isn't just that AI makes us forget. It's that we haven't taught people what it means to remember. Let's pause on that for a moment. You, listening right now, what does remembering well mean when any fact is seemingly just seconds away?
That's the true pivot, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the core question our sources really prompt us to ask. So instead of worrying endlessly, is AI making us dumber? The far more productive question, the one these sources push us towards, is, are we actually building the right environments in schools, in workplaces, environments that teach people how to think effectively with AI?
Right, how to use it properly.
Exactly. The goal isn't protection through avoidance. It's not about shielding people by pulling them out. It's about equipping them, giving them the tools, the ethical understanding, the reflective practices, and the agency to step into that conversation confidently. It's preparation, not retreat.
Okay, so what does that stepping into the conversation actually look like then in practice? How does that engaged interaction happen? Pat's shared that great little anecdote. I didn't engineer a prompt. I had a conversation. The result was better. It sounds deceptively simple, but there's a lot packed in there, isn't there? What's the difference he's drawing between just prompting and having a genuine conversation?
It's a fundamental shift, yeah.
Yeah.
Prompting is often,
Yeah.
well, it's transactional, like ordering takeout from a menu, right?
Yeah.
You give a command, you expect a specific output, done.
Okay.
A conversation with AI, though, that's dynamic, it's iterative. It means, as Katz suggests, maybe arguing with it a bit, pushing back, challenging its evasions when it gives you just generic fluff.
Yeah. The generic fluff.
Right. And interestingly, even using its mistakes, its hallucinations, when it confidently states something completely untrue, not just dismissing them, but using them as jumping off points, like, why did it say that? That can spark real insight.
Interesting. So the errors can be usable.
Potentially, yeah. This back and forth creates what the sources call cognitive tension.
Cognitive tension. And that tension, that's where the learning truly happens. It's active wrestling, not just passive receiving. Can you give us maybe an even simpler, everyday example of this cognitive tension at work, just to make it really clear?
Sure. Think about when you're trying to figure out a tricky problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just talk it through with a friend. Maybe that friend doesn't even know the answer. They ask a silly question or suggest something totally off base.
Mm-hmm.
But in pushing back against their idea, explaining why it's wrong, you suddenly see the right solution yourself.
Okay. I get that.
AI can kind of be that friend in that scenario. That pushback, even if it comes from a mistake the AI made, it sparks your own insight.
It reminds me of, when I first learned to use a spreadsheet, it felt clunky, almost like cheating with math. But now it's just second nature, right? It's a tool that enables new ways of thinking. It really does sound familiar, doesn't it? These fears, like search engines were going to destroy research skills, or calculators. And oh boy, calculators are going to make us unable to do basic math.
It truly is a recurring theme.
Yeah.
Throughout technological history, really. We often fear what new tools might take away before we truly understand what they can add.
Yeah.
And that brings us right back to the central point from our sources. The danger isn't the tool itself. It's the one-way thinking we bring into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources offer a fantastic analogy for this, too, one that really clarifies things. They say using AI isn't like using a wheelchair to walk. That frame implies replacing a function or dependence.
Okay.
Instead, it's more like walking beside someone who thinks differently than you do.
Oh, I like that. That completely shifts my perspective on AI. Not just a tool, but potentially a different kind of thinking partner.
A different kind of thinking partner, indeed. That's a much more empowering way to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So it really comes down to shifting our mindset. Responsibility lies with the user, yes, absolutely, but also with educators, designers, managers. the people creating the context where we interact with AI. Is that a fair summary?
That sounds spot on. Yeah.
And this really brings us full circle to that powerful concept, cognitive partnerships. It's not just a buzzword. It's about deliberately cultivating a relationship where AI isn't just a mere answer machine, but a catalyst, something that pushes us to think harder, ask smarter questions, and maybe even expand what we're capable of instead of just offered a shortcut around the effort.
So wrapping up this deep dive then, it feels like the big takeaway is, well, we need to change the channel on this AI conversation, move away from the fear towards a really conscious, intentional engagement. It's all about intentionally building these cognitive partnerships and designing our learning spaces, our workplaces, so that AI becomes a catalyst for deeper thinking, not a replacement for it.
Exactly. Precisely. And maybe the final thought to leave everyone with, something to really chew on from these sources, is this. If AI genuinely can facilitate these new kinds of thinking, these new ways to engage cognitively, what entirely new forms of remembering well, as Katz put it, might we discover and cultivate in a world deeply integrated with AI? And perhaps even more importantly, how do we proactively, deliberately design for those new possibilities rather than just, reacting to whatever happens?
That is absolutely something to think about. A lot to ponder there. We really encourage you, our listener, to keep asking questions, keep exploring this incredibly dynamic space. Thanks for diving deep with us today on The Deep Dive.